My name is Afia Sheikh, and I lead a West Coast brand partnerships team at iSpot. And my team and I support brand enterprises and their agency partners in their end-to-end journey, working with iSpot's measurement, attribution, currency solutions. I'm very excited to be joined on stage today by Steve Blackford, Head of Customer Acquisitions at LifeLock. And LifeLock and iSpot have a very long history, almost 8 years now, of collaborating and testing, learning, innovating together. So I'm excited to get to share a little bit of that with you all in the audience today. So before we jump in to the main content, Steve, would you like to share a little bit about yourself and your role at LifeLock?
Sure. Excited to be here. If you'd have told me 5 years ago I'd be speaking at a marketing conference, I would have said you're crazy because I come from a finance background. Then I realized spending the money was more fun than counting the money. So went from 10 years finance into marketing, and here we are. 10 years at LifeLock, so excited to be here and talk through what we're doing and the great partnership we have with iSpot.
Awesome. So to frame up the theme for today, we all know that the TV and video landscape is changing very rapidly. Can you share with us a little bit about how LifeLock has evolved its strategy to TV advertising over the years?
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. If you think about LifeLock and a technology company, it was built on non-digital, non-technology-driven media, on 30-minute infomercials, and I'm sure some of you remember Todd Davis's social security number on the side of a bus, endorsement radio, direct mail. So the very antithesis of kind of where the world is today was how LifeLock was built, but it was very successful, and we saw lots of growth through those channels. And we've had to adapt because as the digital world has come in, all the attribution, all the tracking for those digital channels really forced us to think about how do we capture the success of these kind of old school mediums and really make sure that we don't walk away from what helped LifeLock become what it was. I mean, that was how the foundation of the company was built. And so, we've really had to think through how we show measurements in these channels, TV, being a very big one. Like I said, we've grown up on our TV, whether it's Montel Williams or infomercials or 30-second spots, but we've really had to adapt to that in this digital world.
So do you have any sort of key learnings, advice that you would share to marketers based on your own experiences, having to navigate that from more traditional offline channels to look like level playing field with digital, OTT, CTV?
Yeah, and I think as this kind of new era of performance marketing has come in, one of the biggest benefits we've had is being able to show the performance of TV. With iSpot, we're able to measure the impressions that are delivered, who comes to the site, and then follow that through to a conversion, which then kind of gives us an apples to apples view with these digital channels and allowing us to see that there is benefit to these upper funnel channels. We can show the scalability of the impressions, and we can show that we are driving the business. I think the risk that we can get into if we just look at kind of a last touch of digital is the pool never grows. And so we're able to show that benefit and that impact of those offline channels through measurements like iSpot and allow us to, again, get that apples to apples kind of measurement and in comparison to the digital channels.
Being able to balance those different KPIs, right? Like wanting to look at reach, but also with looking at the benefits of targeting and kind of the more exact with digital.
Yeah. And as leadership comes in and out of the company, they're very aware of what's going on. And as budgets are handed out, it's important for us to be able to show these metrics so we can defend the spend against these channels. Because I can't tell you how many times I've had a leadership say, why are we on TV? Nobody watches TV. Or wait, you mean direct mail, like the actual envelope? People still open that. I'm like, yes, they do at a very high rate. So it's allowed us to kind of justify and defend that spend as we're talking through budget allocations and asking for money or making sure that we don't kind of make a rash decision and cutting it all out and seeing that impact on the business. But so that's been very, very critical for us to continue this path of growth.
Being able to see side-by-side channels, also look at it all together as a whole and see how the impact on the business is from multi-channels, absolutely. So keeping to the same theme as we see kind of the evolution of media consumption habits, are there any key sort of future trends and shifts that you're foreseeing in the TV and streaming industry, measurement?
Yeah, and I think it's not a secret. Streaming is the future of video. What's going to be interesting to see is the balance of an ad-free desire from a consumer with an ad-supported desire from kind of the platforms, and how that balances out. And I think inventory is not going to be quite as plentiful as potentially in linear TV. So I think it's going to become even more important to be able to measure and show that efficiency in these channels, because you're gonna have to really show, again, with this kind of the performance marketing lens, why that you should be in these areas and why that you need to be in the streaming, in the OTT, and really watching through kind of this is where the customers are. And I think Sean, said it great, right? I mean, YouTube has a huge usage. It's no secret that that's where customers are going.
Right.
And so, we need to be there and be able to defend why. And it's, even though it's a digital channel, I think there's still the same kind of difficulties as linear TV in showing that against a search or a display or type of advertising. So it's still going to be very, very critical to be able to show those comparisons side by side.
And then can you talk a little bit about kind of innovations, emerging technologies that LifeLock is starting to explore to stay ahead of this changing landscape?
I think the key buzzword is AI. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how AI plays into this, whether it's from how media is deployed, it's how we target, how we find these segments. And, it's one of those things that, being a security company, AI is kind of a fine line we have to walk, because there's a very bad side of AI as well that we have to be cautious of. And so, but, there's no secret that is going to be a key learning and a key kind of tool for us in terms of being able to better target, better deliver creative to those proper segments at the appropriate time. I mean, that's the key of marketing, right? It's the right message at the right time to the right customer. So I think AI is really going to help us figure out how to drive that. And so, finding the tools, finding the partners that are able to help us drive that, I think is going to be the key, for us, but really for everyone going forward.
Yeah, and I know as we were preparing, we were kind of talking about a quote around AI. It's, there's this fear around AI taking jobs, but it's really about whoever can best use the AI technologies in this future state that would make the impact, or be able to secure kind of going forward. Yep. Taking a step, looking at yourself, LifeLock, being a prominent brand in the security industry, what would you say are kind of strategies or like approaches that would be critical for marketers to adopt, to be able to thrive? Again, looking at this changing landscape, you're seeing changing consumer habits. You're talking about new tech, new transformative kind of technologies. What would you recommend for marketers?
I think we heard it in the prior presentation. Customers are everywhere, and you really have to. They're going to drive where you market. And the key to understanding is, where is your customer at? Because not all of our customers are sitting in the same spot. And so I think we really have to be purposeful in finding out where the customer is. And where they are today may not be where they are tomorrow, or the day after that, or the day after that. I think that's the one constant, is change in this environment. And so, you have to be willing to go find them and find ways to make that work. And we're doing it with streaming audio. Again, our rich history in linear TV makes it very hard to move over to that streaming platform, but we have to, because in 5 years, that's where I have to be. And so, it's having that ability to look forward and say, okay, I have to make this work, because this is where I have to be in the future, because this is where the customers are, this is where they're going to be. It's no secret that linear skews older, and as I've told people, just because someone turns 55 in 10 years doesn't mean they're going to stop streaming and go to cable just because they turn 55 years old now.
By no means.
It's a very different world that we're going to live in, and so we have to get there, because the 50-year-old I marketed to 10 years ago is not the 50-year-old that I'm marketing to today. They live a very different life. My mom wants to call somebody to ask for help. If I have to call your company, I'm not buying it, because I don't want to talk to anybody. Let me do it on the phone, on the app, whatever the case may be. And I think that's just the world we're living in. And so we have to be able to find ways to meet the customer where they're at, and not just assume that they're going to transform back to where I want them to be.
And along the lines of kind of how you've used solutions, iSpot and unified measurement, we'd love to hear if you can share maybe an example or two of kind of past experiences where you have been testing into and kind of optimizing over time in this transition from more the from the traditional to, linear other.
Yeah, I mean, what's really helped us is again, we're very heavy in linear TV spend, but as we go into OTT and streaming video, it's important for us to understand the overlap. Right. And is it an incremental audience? Is it a multi-touch audience? Do they perform better when they see both? And really trying to understand, am I talking to them a second time, a first time, both? How do we do this? And we see that OTT does have a better conversion than linear, which has been very helpful for us to see because that helps inform our strategies. But we also have to have the lens that I'm getting billions of impressions through linear TV, and so there's a trade-off there. So even though we may think that OTT and streaming video is more efficient, there's a ceiling right now currently for us, and that can't be ignored because in the end, it's all about the user at the end, and I want the most customers that I can get at the end of the day. And so now, with the help of iSpot and the team, we can try to work towards understanding that strategy going forward. What's a linear impression versus a digital impression versus a combined both, and how do they look, and how do we think through that, and how do we evolve that so that we can not only keep the efficiency of the streaming but not lose the scale of the linear, because you can have 100% conversion rate. If there's only 5 people, then your ceiling's limited. So that's been something that's been very helpful for us through our journey, is being able to see that overlap and kind of, again, go back to that apples to apples comparison and have everything on a level playing field with the same metrics, coming from the same system, so that it's much easier to use that to understand how we can optimize our media and be nimble through that optimization. Again, whether it's communicating to leadership or just understanding as we have growth goals, how can we reallocate and make sure that we're driving the best efficient media that we can.
Yeah, balancing the benefits, like looking at efficiency, looking at that reach, how everything works in unison. To your point, there's a point of diminishing returns, right? Like if you are optimizing down to a granular level versus like looking at your broader KPIs. And would you say kind of where are you at this point of journey of, we've definitely been doing years together of testing, learning and optimizing towards what would be the fine mix. Would you say, it's been solved? You've kind of reached the end of that journey?
No, I'll say LifeLock was very good at acquiring baby boomers. We knew how to talk to that customer to no end. We got them to call in, we got them to convert, we knew where they were. We're still trying to understand how to reach this next generation. Again, our product is very unique in that it's not really an impulse buy. It's not fun to go shop for identity theft insurance or identity theft protection. I mean, it's not what people look forward to on the weekends. And so it's one of those things where we have to figure out how to connect to this new customer who's living 100% in a digital world, and where they're at, because again, they're not where we were. They're not up at 3 a.m. watching a 30-minute infomercial. They're not listening
that's
to,
me.
except for you. They're not listening to conservative talk radio for the most part, right? They're listening to streaming. They're listening to direct mail. They might still be reading direct mail, but it's one of those things where this is going to allow us to go find where they are, and we've used these tools to understand who that customer is, what do they look like, how can we find that kind of segmentation through it, because we're seeing it work, and then how can I take that across other channels as well. They train for marathons. Apparently that's people shopping for LifeLock. And they're starting businesses. They're doing these things, and now we can use that with those insights. We can translate that over to other channels, and really start to then go really make the customer the core of all of our media.
And sort of in summary, are there kind of an overarching kind of theme or guidance that you would want to share based on, again, from your learning, from your own experience, for others kind of navigating the changing landscape to kind of keep in mind, maybe going back to a little bit of that, what's the right mindset or approach to take on going in?
Yeah, I think the only constant in our industry is change. It changes every day. That being said, while you have to be willing to test and to learn and to get in these new avenues, there's also a patience that comes with that, because your first version won't be your best version. And so you have to be willing to test and learn. And if you're truly convinced or about a channel of you like streaming video for us, you can't run one test and give up.
Right.
Because you'll never win and you'll never learn. The key is to test and to iterate, and you have to be able to show what you learned from the data, show that it is having an impact, show the conversion rate is better, show that you are driving people to the site. Because if you think about it, this is where my finance probably comes in. It's a formula. You spend money to drive impressions to get people to your site to convert. I mean, it's a mathematical formula. So as you show how you're impacting all those parts of the funnel, then you can start to paint that picture to understand, what's going on. But it takes time, and we're a year plus into the streaming video journey, and we're not there yet. But we know we can't give up,
right? Because
in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, we're not going to have a choice.
Yep.
And so that's an important message that I would say is it's very easy to test once, lose, move on. But that's not, in my opinion, a formula for success, because like I said, your first version won't be your best version.
Yeah, we'll definitely echo that. I think it's important, whether it's a successful test or kind of what you were looking to learn has not been gained. One and done is never right. You have to continue to iterate, learn, refine, and frankly even recheck assumptions over time, right? If you had a model and a learning from maybe 3 years back, lots changing, right? To your point earlier of constant change, right? The industry is evolving, consumers' habits are changing. So you want to continue to have that mindset of being able to test and learn over time and refine what you're doing. So definitely I'd leave with that about being nimble, but to your point, being patient, marrying those two things together is probably the best mindset for marketers going forward.
And just one last thing, I think it's also important to know where you're trying to go, to know what your North Star is, so that everything you do and test leads you to that point. Because it's easy to just run a test, great, move to the next silo, run this next test, move to the next silo, run this next test. And they might be competing with each other. They might not get you to where you need to go. The key is understanding, I need to be here in X amount, in 2 years. Everything I do should build towards that. And understand and painting that strategy, because that's when you really get the buy-in and you see that success, when you can start to show, I'm moving along this path.
I love it. It's been fantastic partnering with yourself and the team in this journey and continuing to learn. I'm really happy that we got to share a little bit out with the rest of the team, because I think, rest of the crowd here, because it's a journey for everyone. We were talking earlier about how no one's really got it 100% figured out. Anyone who says so is lying. And they're in different points. So hopefully all of what kind of we're learning in this mindset of testing resonates with others in this industry of where they're at. And hopefully reach out and ask Steve if you have follow-up questions about what's been tried and tested. So thank you all so much for your time and attention. Thank you so much, Steve, for joining and sharing with us. Appreciate it.